Let's move on a little bit because there's still some other news in the gun rights issue, the Second Amendment issue, that we need to address. And I think it's rather important. And that's talking about what we heard about here in Deerfield, New York, in central New York, a different kind of case. And again, the gun rights are a big issue because there was a gentleman in Deerfield, New York, who wanted to protect himself. Two people broke into his home and were attempting to rob him, possibly to kill him. And he warned them. He warned them to get out, to stop. He wanted to protect himself. And what happened is they did not. So he took his firearm, again, a handgun. Again, it's a handgun. So all this question about, oh my God, it's a rifle. They're automatic. No, they're not. And no, that's not the deadly thing. It's a handgun. Again, most people own handguns. And he took his handgun for his self-defense of his home and decided to protect himself. This is out by Oneida, New York, the county of Oneida. And he defended himself. And he wound up shooting about 4 or 5 times. And he fatally shot intruders, 2 of them, who came into his home to rob him and to possibly endanger his life. He had fear for his life, which is a basic aspect of the Second Amendment, to defend ourselves. And when we're able to defend ourselves, we're able to stop intruders from killing us and taking our property and harming us. It's also good for defense, which is why many schools are having armed resource officers in their schools to protect people and to allow people to defend themselves. That's what the Second Amendment's all about. Whether that's from government or for individuals who have criminal or deranged intent, that's what the Second Amendment is about, to defend yourself. And he did. And that should be the end of the story. Someone broke into someone's house. They had bad intent. They were warned. They were shot. Should be the end of the story. Except in New York State, where they don't like people having firearms, the answer is no. That gentleman, and I will get his last name wrong, but it's Ronald Stolarczyk. He got arrested. He got arrested, believe it or not. And you have to ask, well, Mike, why did that happen? He got arrested because the firearm wasn't registered in New York State. It was his father had the firearm, and when his father died, he took possession of the firearm. It was gifted to him. And for whatever reason, he forgot to notify New York State and register it. Didn't take it out. It wasn't running around with it. It wasn't waving it at a school or something. It was in his house. It was part of his home protection. He wasn't worried about notifying New York State because it wasn't part of his life outside of his home. And so, because he defended himself, because he defended his home and protected himself, New York State is now going to punish him. Not because he shot, not because there was a bad shooting. It wasn't that he somehow took advantage of the situation or somehow illegally shot those individuals. No. That wasn't the problem. The only problem is that the firearm wasn't registered. And because it wasn't registered in New York State, even though it had never posed a problem to anyone in the state or anywhere else in the world, no one was, if these people did not come into his home and attack, then no one would even know the firearm existed, just like they didn't know it existed in the first place. Well, guess what? Is that right? A lot of people say no. In fact, because he's being, and this is a case that may go to the Supreme Court one day, because New York State is punishing him for his right. Let's remember, this is a Second Amendment right. He has the right to have a firearm. We all U.S. citizens, have a right to bear arms, period. That's our fundamental, absolute right as part of the foundation of the government, as foundation of America. These are inalienable rights. We have the absolute basic right that we can bear arms. We can defend ourselves. So that's at the core what he did. Now, New York State, and we have agreed, there are lots of rules and regulations we've added on to this, but New York State says, okay, you have that right, but New York State wants to make money off of it. That's why you have a license. It's I think it's $600, $800 to get the license, to get the fingerprints and the background checks, and New York State charges you a fee, and New York State makes a lot of money off of this because 5 million people out of 20, so 1 in 4, 1 in 4 people in the state actually own firearms. So that's a lot of money that New York State is making, which is what New York State wants. They want the money. So it's really a question of money in the state, not so much protecting anyone. They have a lot of laws and regulations so that you can charge you lots of money for the state and the state revenue. And this is especially true because New York State is massively in debt and getting more in debt year by year. And so they tax everything. Everything and anything they can, they tax. But I don't want to get into the weeds on that. So this gentleman has been arrested. This is very likely and he's a 64-year-old man. So we're not talking about some kid. This is an older man who's trying to defend himself. So when he gets arrested because the state doesn't like that he was defending himself through the Second Amendment, as he has an inalienable right to do so, well, a lot of people decided that they want to help him out. And there is a GoFundMe for him. This is the legal fund for Ron Stolarzek. I can't get his last name right. I apologize. Stolarzek. Mr. Stolarzek has a GoFundMe with over 222 individuals involved. He's received, 215 people in the last 2 days have gotten involved. The goal of the GoFundMe is to raise $10,000. They've reached $7,500 as of today, June 1st. This was created on May 29th, and congratulations to him. That's to help him fight to make his bail bonds and help pay his legal fees to protect him because he was trying to protect himself. Because he was trying to protect himself with the Second Amendment. And so a lot of people are banding together to help him with that. And I wanted people to know about that. But here's the thing that gets me about this. So a lot of people may say, well, I don't know if I agree with that. And here's the question we should ask ourselves. Is it right to have a law that says that interferes and objects to the Second Amendment? Second Amendment says you have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to defend your property and your family and your loved ones. We have New York State and some other states that say, no, you can't do that. That the state government doesn't like that you have that firearm. They don't like that you're able to defend yourself. And they want to punish you for doing it. And they do this in the most deceptive ways. Did you realize, and I don't think a lot of people knew this, that Nicholas Tallarico is one of the individuals who was involved in this incident. Okay? Nicholas Tallarico is now being claimed, according to gunmemorial.org, he is being claimed as being a victim of gun violence. And here is the problem with it all. We have an individual who is defending his life, and New York State has now labeled him as a criminal. And the criminal the criminal who actually caused this entire incident, the criminal who violated someone's home and endangered their life, is now being claimed by some organizations as being a victim of gun violence. I say this all the time, that people are being manipulated by the media and by certain organizations for a political gain. And I say this all the time, and this is probably the most clear answer on that I could possibly point out. Nicholas Tallarico is a gun violence victim, according to some of these anti-gun groups. This is a person who's a criminal who caused his own death by violating someone's home and threatening their lives. And he's the victim. Him and his, and there was also Patricia and Tallarico. They are the victims somehow because they initiated something. Think about that. Think about that. So that's like saying that the Virginia Beach shooter, when he was killed by the police in the gun battle he had, that he is a victim because the police shot him. Would anyone agree with that? Because there is no difference here. Other than, yeah, you're causing the incident that caused you to get killed. Nicholas Tallarico is not a victim. He caused the incident, just the same as the Virginia Beach shooter caused the incident that wound up killing them. They violated the law. Mr. Tallarico caused the belief and the fear of death. The Virginia shooter actualized it. But if you wanted to, and you will hear some of the people who are against the Second Amendment, people who have a political objective, who want to manipulate your emotions, and they will turn around and they will use this. They are saying that Nicholas Tallarico is a gun violence victim. That is a lie. That is a lie. And the Virginia Beach shooter isn't a victim of police brutality, white police versus a black man, which some will use that. You will hear groups, the fringe left. You will hear people like the Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, or PLOT. You will hear individuals like Citizen Action. You will hear Black Lives Matter. You will hear Antifa. And they will come out and they will use the emotions here and mislead you. And they will tell you that, oh, these are victims. These are gun violence victims. These are police abuse victims. No, they're not. No, they are not. Put it in context. No, they have endangered or actively killed individuals, and they have broken the law willfully, and that resulted in their death because of the crimes they were committing. We have to stop playing this game, this victimhood, and using victimhood to elicit emotions so that you can be stripped of your rights. We really need to start being honest with ourselves, with our community, and really, let's look at the root of the problem. The root of the problem with Virginia Beach is that he made a decision that said, I need to kill innocent individuals for no reason. That is the root problem. We have in New York, in Deerfield, New York, Oneida County, the problem is that Tallarico decided and made a decision that breaking into someone's property, trying to steal that person's property and to endanger someone's life, that was okay. There's your problem. There's the root problem. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe no one disagrees. Maybe no one agrees with me. Maybe people think I'm out of my mind. I'm listening to, Facebook, I'm listening to Twitter, I'm listening. You can call in, you can contact me on the chat room. Let me know. Tell me if you think I just don't get it. I want to hear what the other argument is. Tell me how I'm wrong in what I've said so far. And I'm going to take a quick break to let some people think about it, and I look forward to your comments, and I want to hear that. And then we'll move on in the story, in the show. But if someone has a reason why I'm wrong, why the Virginia Beach shooter, if you think they could have been stopped by limiting the number of magazines, the number of bullets that he could have, or the number of bullets that can be held in a magazine, or that he could be stopped by a red flag legislation that didn't exist, or that there's some justification for someone breaking into your home and threatening your life, but yet should not be killed because of that action, even when given a warning. Well, if you think I'm wrong on these things, if there's something else I'm missing here, let me know. I want to hear that argument. I want to have that discussion, because we can't get to the right answers if we don't, or if we're not willing to have the discussion and say, here's where my case is. What's the other side? What am I missing? Throw out the emotion. Don't tell me how you feel about it. Tell me why it's factually incorrect. Because you may not like it, and that's fine. You don't have to like what I'm saying. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. And it doesn't mean that your feelings are more important than the facts. We've gotten to that. Well, let me take the break, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about, this and other things. So we'll be back in just a moment.